Welcome to Wrestling Then and Now, where classic legends collide with modern chaos, and the only thing more dramatic than the matches is the hair. We're diving deep into the golden ages, the attitude eras, and today's suplex-filled insanity. So hit subscribe, grab some popcorn, and remember, in wrestling the punches may be fake but the passion is real. Getting released is not the end. For many, it's the beginning of a new chapter, in AEW, in JPW, or on the independent scene. But clearly, every time WWE makes the decision to let someone go, the wrestling world feels the shock. Which release left the biggest impression on you? Don't forget to leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories from Wrestling Sphere. 1. Bray Wyatt, a darkness extinguished. Bray Wyatt was no ordinary name in WWE history. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was an artist of horror, a storyteller through fear and symbolism. From the cult leader persona with haunting promos, to the eerie The Fiend character that gave both fans and opponents chills, Wyatt was a rare kind of creative force. But in 2021, WWE suddenly released him, even though he was still one of the company's top merchandise sellers. The reason? WWE claimed it was due to budget cuts, but fans saw it as a blatant waste of talent. Bray left without a proper farewell, leaving behind an unfinished legacy and countless unanswered questions. Only later, when he returned in a new form and then tragically passed away, did fans fully realize how prematurely WWE had closed that chapter. 2. CM Punk, when rebellion was silenced. CM Punk embodied blunt honesty, rebellion, and a willingness to call out anything. From his infamous pipe bomb promos exposing WWE's backstage politics to his unforgettable matches, Punk became the voice of a generation that felt ignored by the system. But that strong personality eventually clashed with WWE's corporate machine. In 2014, after the Royal Rumble, Punk suddenly walked out of WWE and refused to return. Later, he revealed he was officially fired on his wedding day, a slap in the face that felt cruel and personal. WWE stayed silent, but Punk spoke out about the exhaustion, pressure, and injustice he faced behind the curtain. He became a symbol for those brave enough to say, enough, even if it meant the end of his WWE career. Though he later returned to wrestling with AEW and eventually WWE again, the 2014 version of CM Punk remains a defining moment in the history of shocking WWE departures. 3. Braun Strowman, the monster held back. Braun Strowman was once built by WWE as a monster among men. With his massive frame, incredible strength, and brutal fighting style, he intimidated an entire roster. His matches with Roman Reigns were some of the biggest highlights on Raw during 2017 and 2018. But then things changed. When WWE shifted its spending policy, Braun, with his massive salary, was suddenly placed on the budget cut list in 2021. What shocked many was that he was still active in the ring and had just competed for a title not long before. No scandals, no violations, no decline in performance, he was just too expensive. A wrestler built up as an 4. Jeff Hardy, when an artist's heart no longer feels free. Jeff Hardy was more than just a wrestler. He was a symbol, an artist in the ring with wild leaps off ladders and through tables, and an inspiration for generations of extreme wrestling fans. But behind the spotlight, Jeff carried shadows, battles with alcohol, drugs, and personal struggles. During a house show in late 2021, Jeff unexpectedly walked out mid-match, raising concerns for WWE. The company requested a wellness check, but when Jeff declined, he was quickly released, with the reason being to protect the company's image. Later, Jeff revealed that he simply wanted freedom. He wanted to escape the pressure, to leave a place that no longer felt like home. Just months later, he appeared beside Matt Hardy in AEW, smiling more freely than ever before. 5. Sasha Banks, when the spotlight can't hide disappointment. Sasha Banks was once one of WWE's top female wrestlers, both in skill and star power. She was a key figure in the women's evolution, helping elevate women's wrestling in the eyes of fans. But her perfectionism, strong personality, and ambition often clashed with management. In 2022, after a televised event, Sasha and Naomi abruptly walked out of Raw due to disagreements over character direction and how WWE was treating its women's champions. WWE publicly criticized them and suspended their contracts. Sometime later, Sasha quietly parted ways with the company. No official release statement, but everyone in the business understood it was the end. She rebranded herself as Mercedes Moné and appeared confidently on international stages. Once again, WWE lost a top-tier talent, simply because they refused to listen. 6. Karan Cross, the conqueror who got crushed. During his time in NXT, Karan Cross was a force to be reckoned with. His apocalyptic warrior gimmick, alongside Scarlet Bordeaux, eerie music and nightmare-like presentation helped him quickly capture the NXT Championship not long after his debut. But tragedy struck when WWE called him up to the main roster in mid-2021. In his very first appearance on Raw, Cross, still the reigning NXT champion at the time, was defeated by Jeff Hardy in just over a minute, and Scarlett was nowhere to be seen. Fans were outraged and Cross seemed trapped in a gimmick, a Roman gladiator with a plastic helmet. Less than 5 months after debuting on Raw, Cross was released on November 4, 2021, during a major round of budget cuts. WWE's transformation of a dangerous character into a joke on TV, only to then release him like a defective product, became a textbook example of wasted talent in the company. 7. Keith Lee, the limitless man limited by the system. Keith Lee was one of the rare complete wrestlers, big, strong, and yet incredibly skilled and agile. He made history in NXT by becoming the first to hold both major titles simultaneously, the NXT Championship and the North American Championship in July 2020. But things went downhill once he was moved up to Raw. His gimmick was changed, his entrance music lost its appeal, and he was even forced to retrain his wrestling style because it wasn't WWE standard. After a brief hiatus due to health issues, including a bout of post-COVID myocarditis, Keith Lee returned as Bearcat Lee with a dark, puzzling gimmick. Despite trying to adapt, WWE released him on November 4, 2021, in the same round of cuts as Karan Cross. Keith Lee later revealed that he had received no support during his medical struggles, in stark contrast to WWE's often promoted image of being a family. Yet another example of the company's lack of patience and faith in its own talent. 8. Alistar Black, when darkness was pushed out of WWE's spotlight. Alistar Black was one of the most distinctive characters of the post-NXT era. With his dark aesthetic, ominous music and his spinning black mass kick that cut like a blade, he was expected to be the next generation of anti-hero in the vein of The Undertaker or Sting. While he was pushed fairly steadily in 2019, Alistar gradually disappeared from TV in 2020. After a long period of inactivity, WWE unexpectedly reintroduced him in May 2021 with a series of animated story videos, creating the sense that a major comeback was brewing. But then, just 3 weeks after his return and before he even had a single match, Alistar Black was released on June 2, 2021. In a later stream, he shared that he was shocked because WWE had spent effort rebuilding his character, even approving all the new ideas, only to abruptly cut his contract. He later joined AEW under the name Malachi Black, becoming the leader of the House of Black, a clear sign that when darkness is snuffed out in WWE, it can burn brighter somewhere else. 9. Rusev, from Rusev Day to the day he left. Rusev was once a superstar who was heavily pushed, remaining undefeated for over a year after his debut and even facing John Cena at WrestleMania. But what really made him a hot name was the Rusev Day movement, a fan-created phenomenon that started as a joke and eventually became a craze. WWE, instead of capitalizing on it, tried to extinguish it. Rusev was repeatedly placed in strange storylines, with the peak being the Lana, Bobby Lashley angle that turned him into a laughingstock on TV. Despite the negative fan response, the company forced him into the role of a cuckolded husband. On April 15, 2020, During the COVID-19 pandemic, WWE officially released Rusev as part of a massive budget cut. He then joined AEW as Miro, branding himself as God's favorite champion. A way of saying that even though WWE turned their back on him, the fans had never forgotten him. 10. Mickie James, when a legend is treated like a stranger. Mickie James is a true legend in the world of women's wrestling. A multiple-time WWE Women's Champion, and known for her classic battles with Trish Stratus, she returned to WWE in 2016 to help train and elevate the next generation. But what made her name legendary wasn't just the titles, it was how she left WWE. After being released on April 15, 2021, Mickie shared on social media that WWE had sent her personal belongings in a trash bag. That image quickly spread, sparking outrage in the fan community and even leading to some WWE staff being quietly fired for the disrespectful act. Mickie then joined Impact Wrestling, becoming Knockouts champion and hosting her own show at NWA, proving that while WWE might have dismissed her, the respect from the community would never disappear. 11. Lana, when the long-running storyline ends without a happy ending. Lana, whose real name is CJ Perry, was once one of WWE's most prominent female characters, not for her physical wrestling skills, but for her acting ability and charisma on the mic. She started her career as the sharp manager of Rusev, building the image of a cold Russian lady that millions of fans would never forget. But after separating from Rusev and attempting to compete on her own, Lana entered a phase of being relentlessly buried. In 2020, she was thrown through the announcer's table by Nia Jax 9 times in a row over 9 weeks, a move intended as a comedy bit for TV. Though there was a brief moment when WWE seemed to want to turn Lana into an underdog, the storyline with Nia and Shayna Baszler was abruptly abandoned. She then found herself trapped in a cycle of continuous losses and unclear storylines. Eventually, WWE announced Lana's release on June 2, 2021, once again as part of a wave of budget cuts during the pandemic. Ironically, she had been one of the most active people in terms of social media, playing a key role in promoting WWE to a wider audience. 12. Samoa Joe, when injuries and hesitation killed the opportunity. Samoa Joe is one of the most seasoned warriors in wrestling. With experience from TNA, ROH, and later NXT, Joe was always known for his hard-hitting, realistic wrestling style and sharp promo skills. He held the NXT Championship twice and was one of the few wrestlers who genuinely rattled Brock Lesnar in 2017. But a string of injuries sidelined him from the ring. In 2020, Joe transitioned to being a full-time commentator on Raw and unexpectedly excelled in the new role. However, on April 15, 2021, WWE abruptly released Joe, sparking outrage among fans. Notably, less than 3 months later, Triple H invited him back to NXT, this time not only as a wrestler but also in a backstage role. Yet after NXT's transition to NXT 2.0, Samoa Joe was released a second time in January 2022. 2 releases in less than a year, despite no scandals or performance decline, just because of a changing system and caution in assessing medical risks. Once again, WWE let slip away a talent who could have become an outstanding producer or a future director for NXT. 13. Gallows and Anderson, from champions to victims of backtracking. Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson are among the most successful tag team wrestlers of the modern era. They were key members of Bullet Club and New Japan Pro Wrestling before joining WWE in 2016. After a strong push under AJ Styles' leadership in the club, they re-signed with WWE in 2019 on a lucrative 5-year deal. However, less than a year later, they were released on April 15, 2020, as part of budget cuts during the pandemic. The situation became even more controversial when Paul Heyman, then Ross executive director, was rumored to be behind their release, despite previously promising to keep them. This broke their trust, and they later revealed they would never trust WWE's word again. Gallows and Anderson joined Impact Wrestling and later returned to WWE at the end of 2022, but the bitter memories of being cut, right after signing a long-term deal, left scars both for fans and for the duo themselves. 14. Ember Moon, a flame extinguished in the shadows. Ember Moon was once a hidden gem of NXT, built up as a warrior with a unique fighting style, her stunning Eclipse finisher, and a presentation like a moon goddess. After moving up to Raw and SmackDown, she was gradually pushed into bland roles and eventually suffered a severe injury that sidelined her for nearly a year and a half. Upon her return, Ember was sent back to NXT and had a notable resurgence. However, when NXT transitioned to its 2.0 image at the end of 2021, many wrestlers from the black and gold era were phased out. Ember was one of them. She was released on November 4, 2021, in the same round as Keith Lee and Cross. Later, Ember, now Athena, revealed that WWE had begun pressuring female wrestlers to dress more provocatively and have an Instagram-friendly style to match the new direction. When she refused to compromise her personal identity, her future with the company quickly came to an end. Once again, WWE chose image over quality and lost a warrior who could have been a future top champion. 15. Zack Ryder, when loyalty doesn't earn you opportunity. Zack Ryder, real name Matt Cardona, was once the blueprint for self-made success in WWE. In 2011, when the company wasn't pushing him, he created the YouTube show Z. True Long Island Story, building a massive loyal fan base that forced WWE to pay attention. Ryder had some moments of glory, like winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 32, but was quickly pushed back into obscurity. Despite his efforts, Ryder was rarely given a real chance. He stayed patient with WWE for nearly 15 years, never involved in scandals or public complaints, but on April 15, 2020, his name appeared on the release list. WWE parting ways with someone so long tenured and instrumental in pioneering social media for wrestlers exposed a bitter truth. In WWE, loyalty guarantees nothing. After leaving, Matt Cardona reinvented himself in GCW, Impact, and elsewhere, even earning the nickname the Real Internet Champion. A clear example that WWE may not need you, but the wrestling world is always ready to welcome you back. 16. Kora Jade was once seen as the future of WWE's women's division, a symbol of the new generation in NXT. With her skateboard in hand and a defiant spark in her eyes, she captured fans' attention not just with youthful energy, but with undeniable charisma. Debuting in 2021 as a scrappy underdog, Kora slowly evolved into a standout character. Her shocking heel turn against Roxanne Perez in 2022 drew gasps across the NXT universe. It was bold. It was ruthless. It showed she could carry a story, and potentially a division. WWE even positioned her as a top villainess in NXT's women's roster. But behind the scenes, time wasn't on her side. Kora suffered a significant injury in 2023, one that kept her off TV for over a year. The NXT spotlight shifted. New talents emerged, momentum faded. And without warning or proper storyline closure, WWE announced her release on May 2, 2025. Kora Jade was only 24. Her career is far from over. But the way her WWE chapter closed, sudden, silent, and without celebration, feels like an injustice to a rising star who was just getting started. 17. Tegan Knox, persistent injuries and a cold decision. Tegan Knox was once likened to NXT's Wonder Woman, with strength, skill, and fierce fighting spirit. However, fate didn't seem to favor her. Within just 3 years, Tegan tore her ACL 3 times, each requiring 9 to 12 months of recovery. Even so, each comeback was met with fan admiration for her resilience. After recovering and returning to SmackDown in 2021, Tegan was paired with Shotzi Blackheart in a promising women's tag team. But after only a few months, they were split up, with no explanation. On November 18, 2021, WWE released Tegan Knox without providing any clear reason. Reports said it was due to no creative plans and concerns about recurring injuries. A young talent with passion and iron will, but left behind because her body couldn't keep up with the brutal demands. She was re-signed by WWE in 2022, but the coldness of her first release remains a tough wound for loyal fans. 18. Alia James, when young talent gets discarded without reason. Alia James wasn't a big name, but she was an important part of WWE's efforts to expand into the European market through the NXT UK brand. With a dynamic wrestling style, solid technique, and clear development potential, Alia was once seen as a hidden gem in the developmental system. However, after NXT UK was shut down in preparation for the transition to NXT Europe, many young wrestlers were quietly released without any formal announcements. Alia James was one of them. She was silently released by WWE in August 2022 and only later shared on social media that her journey with the company had ended. No farewell match, no thank you message, no official statement from WWE, showing the coldness and lack of respect many young talents have to face. No scandals, no injuries, and still in her prime development years, Alia was discarded like an extra number in a spreadsheet. 19. Bobby Fish, when ideological differences lead to parting ways. Bobby Fish was a core member of Undisputed Era, one of the most famous factions in NXT history. Alongside Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, they dominated NXT from 2017 to 2020, winning every tag team title and delivering many legendary matches. However, after the group split in 2021, WWE had no clear plan for Fish. After returning from injury, he made only a few scattered appearances on NXT and was no longer strongly pushed. On August 6, 2021, Bobby Fish was officially released by WWE. According to multiple sources, Fish was not considered a priority to keep because of his age, born in 1976, and injury history. There were also rumors that Fish disagreed with WWE's management style and had voiced his personal opinions, something that put him on the blacklist. After leaving WWE, Fish joined AEW for a short stint and then continued his career in independent promotions. Once again, WWE lost someone who could have been an excellent coach for the next generation, just because they didn't share the same strategic vision. 20. Emma, a return that led nowhere. Emma was once a trailblazer in WWE's women's division, one of the first to bring true wrestling credibility to the NXT women's roster. Her original run helped pave the way for the women's evolution. After leaving WWE in 2017, she reinvented herself on the independent scene and in Impact Wrestling. Fans were thrilled when she returned to WWE in 2022, more experienced and more polished than ever. But behind the scenes, her comeback lacked real direction. Despite her talent and veteran presence, WWE barely used her on television. She had only a handful of matches and none of them led to a storyline of substance. Then, in a move that stunned fans, Emma was released on September 21, 2023, ironically the same day her fiancé Riddick Moss was also let go. According to reports, WWE simply had no creative plans for her. No controversy. No injuries. Just a cold business decision. Emma's second WWE run ended not with failure, but with indifference. It was a painful reminder that sometimes, even proven talent can be overlooked, not because they weren't good enough but because they were never truly given a chance. 21. Mandy Rose, when personal revenue exceeds what WWE can accept. Mandy Rose was once the model of a modern-day diva, with a glamorous appearance, a flawless physique, and steadily improving in-ring skills. From a supporting role in comedic segments with Otis, Mandy rose to the top at NXT, becoming NXT Women's Champion and dominating the brand for 413 days, one of the longest reigns in NXT history. However, on December 13, 2022, just one day after losing her title to Roxanne Perez, Mandy was suddenly released by WWE. The reason? She was found to have posted suggestive, monetized content on the paid platform FanTime, a service similar to OnlyFans. According to Fightful, Mandy earned between $500,000 and $1 million in just a few months from that platform, far surpassing her WWE income. WWE claimed her content, exceeded the company's PG brand limits, and immediately terminated her contract, without any public warning or preparation time. Fans were outraged that Mandy was treated so harshly despite breaking no laws and harming no one. Ironically, after leaving WWE, Mandy Rose made $1 million in just the next month on her platform. A clear example: WWE can fire you when you succeed, but not in a way they control. 22. Matt Riddle, when talent can't save you from personal habits. Matt Riddle was once an incredibly bright prospect. With an MMA background, having competed in the UFC, Riddle quickly made his mark in wrestling with his hard-hitting style and laid-back personality. After making waves in NXT, Riddle was heavily pushed on Raw as part of RK-Bro with Randy Orton, one of the most popular tag teams of 2021 to 2022. However, Riddle's personal record was full of issues. He repeatedly failed drug tests, exhibited inappropriate behavior outside the ring, and was accused of harassment, though never convicted. The tipping point came in September 2023, when Riddle was involved in an incident at JFK Airport in New York, claiming a security officer sexually harassed him, but with no clear evidence. The incident tested WWE's patience. On September 22, 2023, Matt Riddle was officially released by WWE. Despite his skills, creativity, and fan popularity, WWE seemingly found Riddle too risky to keep. A prime example that in WWE, no one is untouchable, even if you were once the company's hottest tag team champion. 23. Mustafa Ali, when patience can't beat silence. Mustafa Ali represented the modern American dream in WWE, a wrestler of South Asian descent, Muslim, skilled in promos, fast-paced in the ring, and deeply dedicated to his craft. But for years, Ali was constantly pushed into incomplete storylines, from nearly becoming the leader of Retribution, to a politically charged heel role he openly rejected on Twitter. In early 2022, Ali requested his release from WWE, citing no creative opportunity or career growth. WWE refused. He was kept under contract and left off TV for over 6 months until returning in minor matches. Then, on September 21, 2023, just 5 days before he was set to compete at NXT No Mercy, Ali was suddenly released as part of a mass layoff. The move shocked many because he had been gaining momentum in NXT. Mustafa Ali's story is a painful reminder that talent, integrity, and loyalty aren't enough in an environment where backstage politics play an outsized role. 24. Shelton Benjamin, the most underrated talent of his generation. Shelton Benjamin was one of the best technical wrestlers of the Ruthless Aggression era. From the same generation as Brock Lesnar, and having held several mid-card titles like the Intercontinental and Tag Team Championships, Shelton was never given a true shot at the top. After a period away from WWE, he returned in 2017 with a strong comeback as part of the Hurt Business, a faction praised as a breath of fresh air during the pandemic. However, after the group disbanded, Shelton Benjamin gradually became a supporting wrestler, regularly used to elevate newer talent. Despite never complaining, staying scandal-free, and maintaining impressive form well into his 40s, Shelton was released by WWE on September 21, 2023, in the same round of cuts as Mustafa Ali, Dolph Ziggler, and Elias. Sadly, Benjamin was quietly cast aside once again, exactly how his whole career seemed to play out. Quietly excellent but never fully recognized. 25. Dolph Ziggler, when the workhorse of a generation gets pushed aside. No one on this list sparked as much debate and regret as Dolph Ziggler. Starting his career as the applauding student in the Spirit Squad, Ziggler patiently worked his way up through minor roles to become one of WWE's most well-rounded wrestlers. Technically skilled, great at promos, and a modern-day version of Shawn Michaels in style. He held the World Heavyweight Championship twice, the Intercontinental Championship 6 times, the Tag Team Championship 4 times, and was once Mr. Money in the Bank. But despite always giving his all, WWE rarely placed long-term trust in Ziggler. He became the show stealer, the guy who made rookies look like stars. On September 21, 2023, After nearly 20 years with the company, WWE officially released Dolph Ziggler, leaving many fans feeling a real sense of loss. No scandals, no shortcomings, no demands, yet no retention either. Maybe because in WWE, being someone who can do everything ends up making them think you don't matter. And that's the 25 most shocking WWE releases in history, where legends that once shined were cast aside with the click of a button, where talent, passion, and even loyalty sometimes aren't enough to keep someone around. Each name on this list carries a story of hope, of effort, and sometimes of injustice. If you've ever followed them, cheered for them every time they stepped into the ring, or felt the regret when they vanished without a word of goodbye, then leave a like to honor their contributions. And if you enjoy backstage stories, untold secrets, and the dark corners no one wants to mention in the world of wrestling, then hit subscribe on the Wrestling Sphere channel. We don't just tell stories, we reopen memories, decode history, and reignite names thought to be forgotten. Wrestling Sphere, where wrestling stories never end.